All right, if we are live, are you ready to get absolutely nuts?
Let's go after it, brother.
Okay.
This is what we do.
On today's episode of Playing Small is Canceled, we have a very dynamic treat. He's a multifaceted stud whose expertise spans over 25 years in portfolio management and trading. And he is the performance consultant and coach specializing in helping individuals in high pressure industries maximize their performance during high stakes decision making situations. Big facts. His approach leverages modern psychoanalysis and neuroscience to craft strategies that enhance engagement and focus. And his communication skills are off the charts. As the founder of the M1 Performance Group, he provides coaching to elite performers across sports, finance, business, and he is magical at helping others step up their game. He's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a terrific husband and father. Please welcome the transformative, thought-provoking, handsome, and brilliant, my friend, Evan Marks. How you doing, Evan?
Well, first of all, I will take you anywhere with that intro. Anywhere. First of all, I want that cut tape shipped to my media people. That was absolutely brilliant. I think half of it was probably 50-50 on the truth level, but I'll take it,
Oh, man. Well,
hey, listen, you and I met a couple months ago, and two Long Island boys, it really, I think you're a wonderful individual, Craig, and it's really a pleasure to be here. And I do enjoy people who are always evolving and actually helping others. And it's such a treat to be on here with you.
Thank you, brother. I received that. And it's funny because you're right. We met a couple months ago at a dinner, and we hit it off immediately. I feel like I've known you forever. I was just telling you I miss you, and it's only been a few weeks, but love everything about you. Super excited to share you with our community today and so forth. And there's a lot of alignment here. And let's just start right there with a little icebreaker. I know your journey, kind of doing the whole financing and now doing something a little bit differently. I should say a lot different. How important is it for you to be really connected to your mission?
Well, it's not a lot different, right? Running money and trading money, it's a very high stressed emotional game. Right. And I was able to witness, being on desks, what it does to people. The old fashioned style of get bigger, do more work, put more risk on was popular back in the day, but it didn't work and it doesn't work because we know now that emotions play a massive role in our behavior. So what was my mission? My mission was, wait a second. We need to really retrain our brains to understand that, hey, it's all right to give yourself permission to feel, because we have the capability to bring the unconscious conscious and to actually choose behaviors that let us thrive today, right? Or when, everything was learned behavior growing up, which is the model psychoanalysis part of my business. But once we're able to understand where we're starting from, and this is everybody, we have the ability to change. And what happens with change, I always tell people behavior changes before feelings. But what we get to do is start to build new experiences for ourselves. And that becomes in the rewiring of the brain, actually moving the pendulum from a survival-based instinct to actually possibly thriving. So when you go down this rabbit hole as a coach and you start to really learn about what are the possibilities that we all have within us, my mission was pretty clear. However, I thought I had a heart attack when I was 46, so I guess my mission was put upon me. But I always wanted to do this. I went to University of Pennsylvania, I was a lacrosse guy, blew my knees out twice. And I spent, and UPenn's like an incubator for Wall Street. And I always wanted to be a teacher and a coach. So it took this pseudo heart attack, which was actually a massive panic attack, which I never had in my life, to actually say, wait a second. I do not want to live with regret. I need to pivot here. I have an incredible opportunity to do something that I really want to do. And I feel very fortunate. I feel very grateful that I had met people along the way that I was able to actually get into this sort of business at a high level.
Yeah. Beautifully said. You know, and I don't believe in coincidences. So I imagine the panic attack or heart attack hybrid that probably happened for you to kind of wake you up a little bit so you could change gears.
I would, if you told me that 8 years ago, I thought you were nuts.
Right.
This whole universe thing.
Yeah.
I'm starting to lean the other way. Yeah. It was, like I said earlier, I'm very grateful that I'm grateful it wasn't a heart attack, obviously, because I have 2 little daughters, but I definitely woke up and I've never been happier doing what I do now. Yeah. So that I'm grateful for.
And it's obvious that just spending time with you right now, your aura, your confidence, it's contagious, for lack of better words. And we were chatting a little bit before we hopped on, and you were talking about when you coach people, and a lot of times in the beginning, you're listening for what people are not saying. And I thought that to be very profound. Let's unpack that a little bit.
You know, it's interesting, you know, as a coach, I'm not the advice guy, right? My job is for you to find your own confidence. My job is to ask questions that stimulate the unconscious. My job is really to listen to what you're not saying, right? I need to pick up on emotional patterns that are so unconscious to you, but they keep playing out in daily activities, daily experiences, right? When you hear people say, I can't believe I did that again. How'd that happen? That is such a deep unconscious circuitry going on. So it's my job to find out, 1, where we're starting from, 2, to do a couple whys. Why are we like this? Why am I doing this? You know, and that sounds like a therapist in a way, but as a coach, we are marrying the whys and the hows, right? We do want results as coaches. Can't guarantee them, but we know that we're able, once we bring the unconscious conscious, we're able to do amazing things, right? We just have to know where we're starting from. We just can't think positive all the time. We have to, you know, in quote unquote, unravel the spaghetti a little bit to see what is going on. And once we're able to do that, we build a strong mental foundation that we can leverage off of. That's conscious. I mean, where else would you want to be? Yeah. You know, and you switch the pendulum from surviving to thriving. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's true, right? But it takes commitment. You know, they say always like, what do high achievers have in common? They're not interested in success, professional, personal. They're committed to it. You know, this is an act of commitment. You know, it's not easy, but it gets easier. Once we start to shift the way we think about things, right? We become students of ourselves. It's really fascinating.
Where do I even begin? I think in life, you don't get what you want. You get what you're committed to, straight up. And
amen, brother.
Yeah. And I love, the thing with therapy is a lot of people have a gripe with it because they often say that therapists will spend so much time unpacking your childhood trauma and just sit there for years. And a lot of personal development or spirituality will say, I just want to be proactive and just start making things happen. But what you did, it sounds like you married the two. Let's unravel the spaghetti. Let's identify why we're behaving the way we are. And now let's change it. Is that right?
Absolutely. Hey, listen, I have a great therapist who's been with me for 6 years. He's my mentor, right? And he's become a therapist coach to me. You know, I call him Yoda. And every time I call him, I'm like, are you all right? I think if you need to go into therapy, go into therapy, right? Therapy and coaching are very different. But certain things are, above your pay grade and that you need to see a therapist. I'm not poo-pooing that one iota, right? But what I do for a living, I think it's important to understand, to scuba dive a little bit, to understand why people feel the way they feel, behave the way they behave. It gives you a great thing. So when you think about positive psychology, always thinking positive, I think it's Milton's, I always mess up, but he's a UPenn guy, right? It can get toxic. But it's to have a positive mindset, a positive attitude is obviously very important. However, we really have to understand where we're starting from. And that's all right, because when things come down the pipeline, I want my people, my clients, to get their footing quick, right? Because that's reality. Now, is that pessimistic? Of course not. I think it's opportunistic. That I know during times of adversity, during times of struggle, possible challenges, I have the ability to reset, to downregulate, to find my footing, and have the ability to make the best decision I can. I'm not saying it's going to be the right decision, because only time tells. But given the data externally, given the data internally, I can give myself space and make a decision, right? When we don't understand what happened in the past, we react, right? We go into autopilot. But when we're able to slow down, and that doesn't mean taking your foot off the gas. Slow down means intentionality. We get to be proactive.
Yeah.
What a great place to be.
Yeah.
Right? The odds are in our favor. You know, there's no such thing as perfectionism, but it gives us a better sense of control of how we want to behave, of how we want to live.
I think one of the greatest tools that we have is restricting the need to be reactive when something happens. And spoiler alert, there will be challenges, obstacles, painful seasons, whatever the case may be. But if you can just pause and not react, oftentimes you'll see the seas begin to part. And then you have the opportunity to transform from reactive to proactive. And the wind kind of at your back. And so you help people do.
Right. Remember, chaos, right, is reactive, is craziness. Calmness, right? They say chaos is impulsivity, which is usually means being reactive, right? Being unconscious in what we're doing. Calmness, right, is being intuitive, right? We know intuition takes experience, repetition, right? I'm like, the things we're discussing right now doesn't happen just because it's Thursday. It's going to happen Friday, right? It starts to build. Intuition is that sense of calm, where chaos is that sense of impulsivity, right? Always going. Imagine if we're able to slow that down. What a sense of peace. Now, is that attainable? Of course it is. Does it take practice? Of course it does. But we have it within us. But we have to work through the mishigash of how we were programmed, what we learned. It's important.
Most of the stuff we have to do is uninstall the stuff that no longer serves us, and then
unlearn. Yeah.
And it's, most of us have been conditioned for so long to be a certain way. And I see it now as I'm about to get married, and just like two different humans with different upbringings and so forth. And most people just act based upon what they're familiar with, what they grew up with. And it's not always the best.
Yeah, I think the word familiar is a very important word. We always revert to the familiar. Yeah. And unfortunately, the familiar sometimes just doesn't work anymore. Right? When you hear the buzzwords of you got to be uncomfortable, there's truth to that. Right? Because if we stay in the familiar, we never get to realize what we're capable of. And I know it's cliche, all this stuff, but what's interesting, Craig? Cliches are true sometimes. They often are. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's this journey isn't linear. Right? And it never will be. So when we think of it like that we know there's going to be ebbs and flows. But to have the confidence that we'll be all right, I think it's invaluable. Right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just training. That's training your brain and accepting and acknowledging and all these words and being curious. Right? There's such power powerful words. And we have to use them more often. Because you know what they do? They feed the dog instead of the wolf. Those are good things to feed yourself on. I can't, wolf. Wait a second, that's interesting. I'm curious about that dog.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also, like we were talking about before, if you're triggered or, typically in life, the people in your movie will either be a mirror or trigger you. Either they'll hold up how you're acting or they'll trigger you what needs to be corrected within ourselves. And if you're paying attention to it and you feed the dog and you get curious about it, it's usually that invitation to mastery, because now we know what we need to correct and transform.
Right. Yeah. It's if you started yelling at me, I only know you 2 months, you shouldn't have that. You can't affect my feelings, but you shouldn't affect my behavior all that much. But when you start to do that, you start to represent somebody in my past, and it starts to trigger me. So if we're able to accept that and understand that and give space to that, imagine how much better we are, right? I can't control how you feel. I can't. And you may say something that hurts my feelings. Well, that shouldn't hurt your feelings, but it did. But I should have the ability to control my behavior. And to me, that's an incredible ability, because it shows you have some sort of freedom over how you want to behave. Yeah, it's all this stuff we talk about is so important. When you think about the Olympics now, and Simone Biles and mental health and Michael Phelps and everybody else, it's real. Like, it's all right to acknowledge something's off. It's all right to ask for help. Like, all this stuff is all right. And I'm so glad, we always talk about material wealth, right? Cars and houses, this, I got to get a big of this. But if you see now, there's such a new movement called holistic wealth. I think it really started to escalate after COVID, about our well-being, it's not about compensation, it's about culture, right? It's about the environment I want to be in. So I really think there's such a shift now where people are really prioritizing themselves. And that's not an act of selfishness. It's actually selfless. Because when we're at our best, all the people we love, all the people we interact with benefit.
100%.
And we have to keep that top of mind. It's so important.
Holistic wealth. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Before, it makes perfect sense. This is so good. And this really is the juicy stuff. This is stuff that moves the needle. You're one of the best coaches I know. And I love what we're talking about right now. But on the flip side, when you're coaching somebody, a student, mentee, or client, in your eyes, what makes a good mentee or client? Like, what attributes do you want to see from them that makes them very coachable?
That's a great question. You obviously always want to coach somebody who's coachable, right? And it's ironic that the greatest achievers are the greatest coachable people, because it's the ones who really achieve, who realize they don't got it. It's just a different mindset. Maybe there is sprinkles of doubt, sprinkles of this, where they have things in the past that have held them back, but they're always evolving. For me to, I'm not like, hey, let's go. We can do this, Craig. Come on now. Take those feelings, throw them aside. You can do it. Think positive all day long. Affirmations, all that stuff. By the way, I think affirmations work. You have to first build your mental foundation first, because then the only way affirmations work is you actually believe in it. You got to believe in yourself. But all of a sudden, you get clients who are like, because we're taking modern psychoanalysis meets the latest research in neuroscience. It's like, what is that? When you have clients who are curious, they're like, I like what you're saying. I've never heard this before. Let's give it a go. Right? And they're open to it. But as a coach, our number one job is to build trust, right? Because it becomes an extremely intimate, vulnerable relationship. Because, as a coach, I want to know everything, right? I want to know what's going on right now, because that affects your performance, right? Don't think it doesn't, because everything is connected. So when you meet people, you have to form that bond. And that's where the magic happens. And you can sense when people are seeking help, when they start to open up, right? As a coach, you have to have the right questions, right? You have to listen to what they're not saying. We have to pick up on emotional patterns. But when somebody is willing to be vulnerable, it makes our job a lot easier.
It's the best.
That's when things start. That's the cradle, right? When things start to really flourish.
Yeah. And you talk about like being curious. I remember specifically when I first got to Wall Street, I also stumbled upon personal development, specifically NLP. And this was probably, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. And I sought after an NLP practitioner, and I started seeing him once a week in person. And he used to have to kick me out. I was like, just please, one more question. He'd be, Craig, I got to go home and have dinner with my wife. I just wanted to gobble everything up and understand it so I could begin to apply it and just evolve. I just couldn't get enough of it. And you got to be so curious. You got to really have the passion for wanting to understand it and apply it. Not just go to the events, listen to the podcast, consume it and apply it.
I think what you say is so important just now. I did a post a long time ago, and I said, you know what the difference between the first self-help book you read and the 900th? Zero, right? Sleep, nutrition, exercise, and your mental health. If you don't have those down, it doesn't matter what you read, right? And if you're reading something and you're not implementing it, not only does it not help you, it actually hurts you, because here I am again reading the 700th book and I'm still not getting better. So why are we not getting better? There's a great book called Hidden Potential. It's Adam Grant. And he has this line that says, procrastination isn't the lack of effort. However, it is the fear of a future feeling. Eat that one for a little bit. Ooh. So it's not like, when people say, some people are afraid of success, right? Some people, there's a fear of embarrassment, fear of being ashamed, fear of this, fear of that. Those are real. I'm not dismissing any of them, but it's not the lack of effort. It's the brain predicting into the future from past experiences that hold us back. Right? So if you rewind what we said in the beginning of this conversation, if we're able to acknowledge our feelings, put space between that and our behavior, and ask a self-exploratory question. Okay, what am I trying to accomplish? How do I want to represent myself? How am I feeling and why? And then we pick a behavior that's advantageous to us now. What that does, it creates this new experience. And what does that new experience do? It gets logged in the brain. So now when we say that whole procrastination line, our brains now can go into a bigger pool saying, wait a second. Not when I was 12. I just did this. Now through the course of repetition, we start to believe that we're capable of doing this, right? And it doesn't have to be gigantic, right? It doesn't have to be, I just climbed Mount Everest. It doesn't have to be that big. It could be, you know what? I went to bed 30 minutes earlier because I wanted to wake up earlier to get a workout in. And you work on that little, because all these little changes are not inconsequential. They may look small in the beginning, right? but it starts to open up.
Compound.
So as we build this internal momentum, that door starts to open. But all that work we've done, now we see that, they say progress is elusive. We start to see it. Right? We don't recognize that 2 + 2 is 4 and 4 + 4 is 8. But as the actions get bigger and the results look different, that's when you think you're progressing. But it took all this momentum. Like I always say, consistency with evidence builds confidence. And that's extremely important, right? That consistency could be as little as, I like to eat pizza, but I don't like having 3 slices because I'm trying to get in good shape. All of a sudden, I put down the 3rd slice. Now, to the guy down the street, it may seem like nothing. But to me, I was unconsciously reaching for this again, but I stopped. I said, no, I'm good. That may seem like nothing to anybody. But to me, small clap.
I love what you
didn't want to eat it, and I almost did. Don't think that's inconsequential. It's not. It starts building this mental foundation that we actually can leverage off of. Right? My job is to stretch people once I build this, not snap them, stretch them.
It matters most when it's hardest, right? So the fact that you wanted the 3rd slice but resisted, kudos to you, buddy. And
so what also is interesting, Craig, is that for a lot of people, I'm not saying we need a Dallas Cowboy cheerleading party, but we need to give ourselves a little bit of credit along the way. A little bit. Good job. Well done. Golf clap. it really, but it's true though. It goes a long way because what you're doing is now you're building these new, you can tell I'm very passionate about this stuff.
Of course.
You're building these pathways in your brain, right? Hard habits are hard to break for a reason, right? Doing the same thing. There's actually myelin, almost like coaxial cable in your brain. We are building new pathways in our brain. So don't think that little golf clap, that little, good job, Craig. It goes a long way. You just may not see it just yet.
Yeah.
But it picks up steam.
I like the analogy because on the contrary, to totally celebrate for a small win would also be counterproductive because then it's like, whoa, you're celebrating from that. Let's stay humble, but we also want to engage our progress so far and keep it going.
Yeah, just a little thank you, right? Good job.
Yeah.
Right? Mini fist pump.
Before you said consistency plus evidence equals confidence. I think there's a big misconception. People are waiting to start until they feel confident. But commitment comes before confidence. First you commit, you stay consistent, showcase that evidence, now you have confidence, right?
Yeah. Well, consistency with evidence builds confidence. But what that does is it changes your belief system because you can see it. It's somewhat tangible because you've done it. Now, I'm not saying that you got it. I'm not saying that at all, right? Because we stretch ourselves, right? I was listening, they talked about precision over perfectionism, right? We're never going to be perfect. But that's a very different between striving for perfection, right? You can strive for, but we acknowledge the fact that there's nothing is perfect, but I want to get better, right? So I have to execute. I have to be consistent with my actions. I know I'm consistent with my actions. So that's confidence. Now, what is confidence? I'm not saying confidence like beating your chest like a lunatic. I'm talking about confidence, this under the radar confidence, this sense of humility, but you believe in yourself. I did a call yesterday in the House of Bricks, this community that I belong to. And somebody asked about self-worth, right? When we have that under the radar confidence of who we are, what we're capable, right? We're validating ourselves because we believe in what we're doing. Because a lot of people weren't validated as children. that gives you an incredible sense of self-worth because you believe that you do what you say you're going to do. That's an incredible thing of self-worth, right? And I think people who have tremendous self-worth have that under the radar confidence, which is smothered and sprinkled with some gorgeous humility, but they're beasts anyway.
When I think of optimism, I don't think everything is going to turn out unbelievable. I have the optimism and self-belief in myself that regardless of what comes my way, we'll get through it. We'll power through. We'll figure out a way. That's
self-belief. You got to back and fill, right, to move forward, right? And that's not an excuse, right? You know, yeah, shit happens. Shit happens. Well, okay, shit happens. What are you gonna do about it? Forgiveness without action is nothing. Knowledge without action is nothing. Right? We have to really be constantly choosing how we want to behave.
Yeah.
It's like all this. I mean, I can talk about this stuff for hours.
Same.
Because I think it's so fascinating. Because like Nick Saban says, we all have a capability gap. And it's our job to come close to filling it. Right? And that's not saying chasing every moment. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we can be content in the moment, look around, find joy, find fulfillment. And then we feel it. And if we decide, you know what, man, I want to try this out. I want to see what this is about. You know, like they often say, like, play your strengths, right? Yeah, play your strengths. But we know that these perceived weaknesses that we've been told are weaknesses are actually springboards for growth, right? So now when we start to look at ourselves as students of ourselves, that mindset of what am I really capable of? That's not void of contentment. That's not void of love and being with people and relationships, which are obviously extremely important. The community we have is extremely important. But it's really going back to self-worth, self-belief, self-confidence, right? Being able to choose when we want to go and when we don't want to go. But to have that belief that we have that choice, I call it gear shifting, that I can go into fifth gear anytime I want, but I also know going into neutral, I'm still gaining confidence. And why is that? It's because I chose to do it. I didn't react. It was a proactive choice.
Unbelievable. I like what you said about was it capability gap?
Okay, that's Nick Saban. I got to give him credit. I think he's a decent coach.
Yeah. But that's so good because a lot of people are I think social media or people that compare themselves to others, I feel like that's one of the worst things that you could do spiritually, because I don't want to be the next Tony Robbins. I don't even want to be the next Evan Marks. I just want to be the top of Craig Siegel, reach my capacity to the best that I can.
Yeah. You know, they say like the comparison is a thief of joy, that it's actually envy, right? Like I love the certain things you do, Craig, right? And so why is it wrong if I model a couple of your behaviors? I like that part of this game, right? I like my game, but I think it could get me a little better. I like the way he's thinking, right? So modeling good behavior and things you like in people, I think is a positive thing.
100%.
Now, if I'm envious, that's poison.
Different consciousness.
Different consciousness.
Yeah. And also the modeling, I think, is one of the best ways to accelerate your growth. Like even if you don't have experience in something, if you find somebody that's very successful in what you're looking to do, or somebody that you hold in high regard, and you model their behaviors, their thought process, how they conduct themselves, that alone will elevate you until it actually becomes a little bit more natural or organic, I would say.
And I think that really works. It has a bigger impact on you when you've done work on yourself first, right? Because, some people feel like imposters or, I don't think it leads to that necessarily. But when we start to understand who we are, right? Like I know who I am, right? I know my things I need to work on. And there's tons of them. I know things I'm good at. But if I see something in somebody else, I'm like, that's interesting. How can I implement that into my game? I love the way he speaks, right? It has such a profound impact on people. You know what? I want to learn that and have it put into my arsenal, right? Where Evan Marks is still Evan Marks, Craig Siegel's still Craig Siegel. But I liked how you did that. I loved how you know, when I met you, I loved how you spoke to people. I like that. I'm like, and I watched. So I'm like, that's pretty cool. How can I what parts of that do I want to put into my game? Because I really respected that. Right? I'm still me. You're still you. Right? You don't have my experiences. I don't have your experiences. So I can't be you. But I want to be, which we haven't used, right? I know it's overplayed. It used to be integrity, which has been wiped out because that was overused for a long time, is being authentic. But I think authenticity is real. And I think people are attracted to that as long as it's used in the right environments.
I think authenticity is so attractive.
Yeah.
Like, think about like a woman, like obviously someone that's beautiful is beautiful, but somebody that's just so comfortable in their own skin and they're confident, they have an aura and they're authentic. There's something super attractive about that. A guy too, obviously.
Guy or guy, you know, I think the attraction is just the energy you get off it.
Correct.
Whoever it may be.
Yeah.
Right? It's just that you feel it. Like, and I don't know if you can explain it. I know there's science behind it probably somewhere. But authentic, vulnerable, knowing when to be vulnerable, right? Can't be vulnerable all the time, right? You got to pick, because that's conscious when you want to share, right? But I think there is a certain energy to it, and that's what attracts people, right? That, you know, I've been very fortunate growing up. I have the same friends since I'm 2 and since I'm 18. And it's this community of guys who cheer for each other. When you're not doing well, what's going on? When you're doing well, they watch you, right? You know, to have that sense of, you know, and I think it all leads to one thing too. It's like when you're able to tell the truth, right? What do they say? The truth will set you free, right? When you feel like you can tell somebody something, and this kind of goes back to the coaching thing with clients, that you feel safe, right? You know, the big word now is psychologically safe in cultures and corporations. But when you feel safe, who wouldn't want to be in that situation where I'm not being judged, right? As coaches, we don't judge, right? You don't. That's not my job. But not feeling judged, you know, our basic human needs are what? Being heard, being supported,
Feeling seen. Yeah.
and feeling important. Yeah. Those are just human needs that we all need. I don't care who you are.
I think that's what a guy really wants in a relationship, what you just said.
Yeah. Yeah. I think anybody.
Yeah.
You know? I think my wife would agree the same thing I feel.
Yeah.
Right. You know, it's just fascinating, you know, and you're getting married soon, you know, so.
Less than 30 days, brother.
Less than 30 days.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Straight off the cuff about that. What's your best piece of advice or what has helped you achieve success in your relationship that maybe you would pass on, or something that maybe I'm not thinking of that I could utilize in my marriage that can help?
I think really I think the greatest advice is pausing. Just
Really.
like literally, we all feel, right? We all have emotions. I'm not saying we got to scuba dive on every emotion, understand where it's coming from, right? There's a time and place for that. But if you're able to feel, right, and we all have feelings, and give yourself mental space before you decide to behave, I really believe it's 70% of the game, right? And that's one. And two, when you do have children, and this is why I think I'm in business, let your children tell you how they feel. Don't tell them not to feel a certain way. Let them put words to their feelings. Dad, I'm very upset. Why are you upset? Well, you're allowed to feel upset. You're allowed to feel anything you want, but tell me why, right? Don't say you shouldn't be upset about that. Don't be angry. Once we start to minimize children's how they feel, that's why I'm in business. Right? Let your children verbalize it. You know, it's not enough to think I'm angry and just stew in it and ruminate it. When we verbalize it, when it leaves our mouth, we can hear it and not obviously see it, but somewhat see it. It's such a learning thing, right? The intensity of the feeling comes down. We acknowledge how we feel because you're allowed to feel. So one is as when you get married, pause. And two, when you become a parent, let your kids feel, right? Don't tell them how to feel.
I just had a download. I think that you can have soulmates for different reasons, not just intimacy. I'm pretty confident, brother, you and I have definitely been like very close in a previous carnation. I did not just meet you 2 months ago. Straight up. I love you. There's so much alignment here.
The feeling is mutual, my friend.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
Before we land the plane, I wanted to ask you, at this season of life, you've had a ton of success that you can revert back to gain confidence and so forth, but you are having a human experience. I imagine there are still times that you experience self-doubt. What is the tool that you have for anybody going through or playing bigger or whatever that you utilize to remove self-doubt? Or maybe you don't, you feel it, you just do it anyway.
Can't remove it, right? Behaviors change before feelings. When I'm happy, I'll do this. Doesn't work that way. When I'm no longer angry, I'll do this. Doesn't work that way. So now I accept. I did a call yesterday. I've done millions of calls. Nervous as hell. I just get nervous. So I acknowledge it. Okay, feeling nervous again, man. Now I shouldn't be, but I am. I literally acknowledge it. I say this, I say, have you feeling nervous? I say, I'm feeling really nervous. I put a smile on my face. I've acknowledged it. The intensity comes in. Acknowledge it. Give yourself permission to feel it. It's all right. It's because if you don't, it gets on the field. So that's one lesson we should all learn, that we all feel. Now, do I want to feel nervous? Do I want to feel embarrassed sometimes? Do I want to feel humiliated? The possibility? Of course I don't. But if I don't acknowledge it, it'll stay in the darkness, grow in intensity, and start to pick, its own narrative. So verbalize it. Give yourself permission to feel. It's a huge deal. That's my one thing. And two, to really understand that we all have the power to choose. We do. We just have to freaking slow down. It's powerful.
So simple and so effective. You have a choice. You can succumb and go into your shell and say the doubt's a little too strong for me. Or you could acknowledge it, feel it. I'm having a human experience. I feel a little bit anxious. I'm a little nervous. I really want to do a good job, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. But the acknowledgement is a big part, right? Because now you have the evidence that you've done it. And then listen, when you see like, but you could say, let's go. Right? When we talk about negative triggers, right? There's positive triggers also, right? So when I stand up like Superman, open my chest up, I'm like, all right, Ed, let's have a good day today, buddy. Right? I feel it all. That's a positive trigger. And I'm moving my physiology. So when we're thinking, it's a negative trigger, there's positive ones too. Right? We just have to understand that I can feel whatever I want, but I'm able to put myself in a state not void of how I feel.
That is a 7-figure nugget, right? In NLP, we call that anchoring.
That's priming. I've heard it's called priming or anchoring. Yeah.
Anybody listening right now, we're going to share the replay everywhere. That's a 7-figure exercise right there. A positive trigger. You can make anything that you're going to do magical by going in the correct state. And the correct state could be in your repertoire if you anchor or have the positive triggers of stuff that make you feel good and elevate your physiology.
Right. And I think it's more beneficial, more intense, and it magnifies if you acknowledge these quote unquote Remember, just quote unquote negative emotions, because those emotions actually have incredible intensity. So if we take those negative emotions, we acknowledge them, the energy's there. Now we anchor, prime into a trigger like, okay, I know this is how I feel. And we do this over and over and over, remind ourselves to do it. As our behavior changes, that's not BS, right? And we haven't even, you know what's the interesting part? We haven't even talked about results once on this show. That's the byproduct.
Byproduct. I was about to say.
That is the byproduct of all this. We haven't mentioned results once. That's just the byproduct.
This is a master class right now. So thank you. No, this is worth a.
We've been speaking. Yeah, wow. We've been speaking for a long time. We haven't mentioned results once.
Quickest 40 minutes of my life.
But isn't that amazing?
Yeah, because it's all about this, the process, and the results happen from this as a byproduct, like you said. Yeah.
The process is important.
And if you master the stuff that you're unpacking here today, you'll never have to worry about results.
It's just a byproduct. But you know what's interesting? Listen, we all got to make a living, right? We have people to support, right? I'm not poo-pooing that. But it does shift the way you think, right? Like I said in the beginning, this whole holistic wealth stuff over material, your thought process changes. What you truly want in life, of what you find fulfilling, right? Because now we're not seeking external validation, even though it's good. I'm not saying I like it a little bit, I'm not lying to you, but it's more internally based. It's with the people you love, right? The people you surround yourself with, but you feel good about yourself. Self-validation is not, arrogance is often a veil of insecurity, but self-validation is so important. To be able to fill our own voids is magical. I'm not saying it happens on Friday. No. I think it's a lifelong journey. But what's wrong with that?
Nothing. Yeah. All this work.
Ebbs and flows. All right. I'm cool with that. Makes it more interesting. Imagine just going straight. How boring.
This is unbelievable, brother.
Right.
Before we
land. Struggle tells a good story. Yeah.
Of all the things that you have going on, all the hats that you're wearing, what are you most excited about right now?
I'm working on a couple things right now. I want to get back on stage. I used to love doing it, and I want to do more of that. I'm starting to work with more and more athletes, which I enjoy. But I just, for me, as I think about it, I just want to work with awesome people. I want to work with people who are curious and who just want to get better. And I think, we talked about byproduct, but the byproduct goes to people around them, right? There's a shift. There's a ripple effect. There's a compounding nature, right? I want to see my daughters that are coming back from camp soon. I went to camp for a while, so I'm excited about that. Get to hang out with my family on vacation soon, which I'm excited about. So there's a lot of things I'm excited about.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, brother. For our community and audience, what's the best way for them to support, stay involved, find out how can they possibly go deeper with you? How can they find you?
So I'm the founder and CEO of M1 Performance Group. So my website is m1performancegroup.com. I am on LinkedIn. I do content 3 times a week. And I am on Instagram, which, by the way, is my content from LinkedIn to Instagram. I've been on social media 6 months. And I have this terrific person helping me out, but I'm just learning to navigate this world. That was when you want to talk about doubt. That was my biggest fear. Was going on social media. I'm 52 years old. You talk about a dinosaur. But now, like anything else, I love it.
Yeah, I think you're just getting warmed up. But thank you, brother, for putting out the content. It's very, very, very helpful. I know I'm better for this conversation, but we're not done yet. We'll end up playing with a little fun rapid fire, maybe 1 or 2 word answers. Are you ready for me?
Go.
Okay.
Let me take a little sip, little something drink.
Okay, get ready. You ready for me?
Go.
Morning ritual essential.
I'm very fortunate. I have a sauna and cold plunge. So I wake up at 4:45 every morning. I stretch, I sauna, I plunge. Right? I don't run money anymore, so I'm able to work out 9, 10. I fix my time, but every day is a sauna and a plunge for me. Very fortunate to have one, right? I think some gyms have them, but that's what I do every morning.
Consistency plus evidence.
Yeah. Stretch and ski, by the way, because my body's a little busted up.
Understood. Same. I'm training for the New York City Marathon right now. One thing I'm incorporating more is stretching and recovery.
Recovery's big.
Okay. Favorite movie? This is a tough one.
I may get slammed in this one, but I don't care. Roadhouse.
Unbelievable.
How good is Roadhouse? I literally got into Tai Chi because of Roadhouse. It only lasted 2 weeks, by the way. My hips were hurting me.
That's okay.
But it was Roadhouse. I mean, come on.
They don't make them like that anymore. Did you see the new one with McGregor?
I haven't seen it.
Jake Gyllenhaal. It's worth a watch, but I mean, it's not,
right food. Come on now, Sam Elliott. How good was he in that movie?
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your favorite movie?
Probably again sound a little cliche, but I have such a soft spot for Gladiator. I also like the Dark Knight movies. A good message in those. The Rocky franchise. Those movies the movies that like ignite that emotion. You want to go run through a wall. I just love those.
Shawshank Redemption was a good one.
Classic.
Classic. Yeah. But Rocky's a good one too.
Yeah.
I do listen to Rocky when I train sometimes.
Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong.
A couple more. You could probably go anywhere you want, but dream travel destination.
I've been very fortunate to travel a lot. You know, I have a twin brother that lives in Sydney, Australia, so it's like my second home. But my dream spot that I want to go, which I'm planning, I want to go to Sardinia. I've never been to Sardinia. Italy's one of my favorite places. I want to go to Sardinia. Wait, I got 2 places. Okay. And I haven't been to Cape Town yet. So I want to go to South Africa. And I really want to go in that cage with the great whites coming at you.
I tried to do that.
I want to experience that.
I tried to do that in Hawaii, but they wouldn't let me. Every single day I was there 5 days because the weather makes those predators too unpredictable.
They put you in a tank, don't they?
Yeah, but they said even that wasn't safe.
Oh, we'll jog you up. But those are the 2. What about you?
You know, right now I'm thinking about going to Greece for the honeymoon. And I'm pumped about that. And then when you and I were talking, Italy, Paris, France, those spots, I haven't been nearly as many places as you, and it's something that I'm going to start doing a lot more of.
You know, it's interesting. I think traveling, if you have the opportunity, even if you can't leave this country, go somewhere different. Life without stories, in my eyes, is not fulfilling to me sometimes. Like, I don't care if you just go to the, you know, I'm in Jersey, go to the Jersey Shore and experience that. I think it just opens your mind.
100%.
100%. I mean, I love traveling. My kids luckily love traveling. My wife loves traveling, right? But it doesn't mean you have to go to Paris, right? You can go somewhere, you know, New Haven, Connecticut has the greatest pizza of all time. If you like pizza, at Pepe's Pizza, supposedly the best, check it out. Jump in the car.
I went to Miami twice in the last couple of weeks, one for my bachelor party, and even just as simple as that, just coming back, I felt rejuvenated, refreshed, the new eye of the tiger. It was great. It was only Miami, you know.
I love Miami.
I know.
I don't think there's a place I haven't been that I don't like. My wife's like,
you're a great resource for me.
Yeah, I'll tell you so many places to go. Yeah.
All right, 2 more. This is a tough one. Favorite book.
My favorite book. That is a tough one. I got to think about but how about my favorite book right now? Right. Because I've had 8 concussions. So my memory's a little jog.
8?
Potential. Yeah. I've gotten my head banged a couple times playing ball. My favorite book right now is Hidden Potential by Adam Grant. So that line when I said, like I mentioned earlier, procrastination, not the lack of effort. He's got I think he's incredible. He's got so many wisdom nuggets in this book that I think it's great. Also, I love Kite Runner, by the way. Kite Runner, I don't know if you ever read that. Yeah. Phenomenal book. That was years ago.
Potential. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. Adam Grant. He also has here. It's right next to me. I like to keep books around me. Adam Grant. I think he's great. He's actually a UPenn guy, and he wrote a book called Think Again. I like the way this guy writes. I like the way he thinks. I think he's spot on.
I love it, and I love you, pal. Okay. And by the way, this is the longest episode so far of Playing Small is Canceled.
Well, how come he ask you a question quick?
Go ahead.
I mean, you didn't ask the most important question.
Well, I'm not done yet with you, but you want to ask me one? Is that what you said?
Yeah, can I ask you one?
Sure.
What's your favorite restaurant in Manhattan? Or how about, no, I take that back, in New York City.
I'm a creature of habit. I'm a Taurus. I have a rotation. I really like Mr. Chow's, Hillstone, Tao, Zuma. But I would say if I had to choose one, Mr. Chow's.
On 57th Street.
Correct.
Yeah, that's old school. I just went to a place called Brucherie. It's in the West Village. I was there 2 weeks ago. Dynamite. Cool spot.
Dynamite.
Dynamite. Yeah. All my travels are based on food. Everything's based on food.
I love it.
Surprised I don't weigh 800 pounds. Yeah.
Final nugget. One word to describe your journey so far. I hate you.
Challenging.
What is it?
Challenging. Yeah. I blew my knees out when I was in high school. My dad, my family was dysfunctional, even though my mother was just a titan. She was an amazing woman.
Still is.
Still is. But challenging that I never got help when I wanted to. And I just had this facade on where I was struggling inside for too long. And finally I woke up. I said, this is not working for me. And it was challenging. Right. And now challenging takes a different form now, where challenging represented struggle, but now challenging represents thriving. Right. So the shift in that word on my journey has changed. So, words have different definitions, how we say them, the tonality behind them, the tempo behind them. But now it was challenging, but now it's really challenging in a good way. Like we talked about how we shifted. Right. And I think that word has changed its colors over the course of my journey.
That's where we dropped the mic.
That was a pretty good one, right?
Unbelievable. Hang up for 1 sec. This was straight up a masterpiece. I can't wait to run it back. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless, juicy nuggets today.
Anytime, brother. Anytime. And we got to get a date on the calendar real soon.
We're going to do it right now after we hop off.
Okay, done.